Hi, Allison, my big sister.
Hi, David Matthew, my younger brother, one of my two younger brothers. You have a good tan.
Um, yeah, thanks. That's this is end of summer. End of summer, just being outside, mowing lawn, that sort of thing. Absolutely. How's your week wrapping up?
It's been intense. It's been a real full throttle, good week, a lot of new stuff rooted. And I just, before I ran out to run an errand, I did the full moon total lunar eclipse clearings and activations. And it is so clear. And then we have something else coming up next week that it is such a completion time right now.
Completion time.
And
Hmm.
and letting go, surrendering to the flow of life and letting go of rigid control and rigid structures and allowing space for the new possibilities and the new opportunities and the new like never before. I know you are may be used to hearing me say that last sentence. Um, I feel like this is the marker of everything I've been talking about for like what 15 years. I feel like this is the energetic, astrological, vibrational um, support that we've been moving into to really round the bend from the old and the new energetics are here. And now it's a matter of us learning how to work with them.
Hmm. I love the sound of that. I love the feel of that. I love how aligned it is with everything. I mean, I started, I think I told you uh, a couple of years ago, I had learned about them in my meditation teacher training, Yogananda's energization exercises. But then a few years ago, I actually started. You open to things when you're ready for them, right? So I had learned about them, but I had kind of set them off to the side. I guess I wasn't at a level where I was really ready for them. I was too much in my ego, like judging them like for at my ego level as far as what they looked like or what they just wasn't tuned in. Fast forward a few years, I started practicing them daily. And since the first time I devoted myself to practice them every morning, I haven't missed a day.
You're talking
Even
about the energization exercises?
energization exercises, yeah. But
Okay.
the reason I'm bringing them up is because the purpose of them, I mean, they look mechanical, they look physical. Like Charles Atlas, actually, back in the day, the Charles Atlas exercises, I think that was like in the 50s. He was inspired by these exercises to create the Charles Atlas program. They look physical, they look mechanical because you're
Like
tensing your
Qigong.
muscles and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But the purpose of them is to help us become uh, aware of our energy, aware of our life force energy, and then be able to control and direct it. So it's just interesting. Ever since I started practicing those, the extent to which the idea of just energy, that's like, because you were just talking about the energetics and energy, and it's such a, I don't know, it's such an easy thing to just talk about the energy and the energy and the energy. It's thrown around in like the
It
spiritual
is.
circles so much. And it was thrown around for me too. We can try and grasp it intellectually, but to actually have a practice that helps you learn how, and obviously that's not the only practice that exists for that. It's the one I follow and I have fallen in love with. But just the idea of um, that, to hear you talk about what you just talked about as far as the energetics that are supporting us right now, the energy that's there, and to have a concept that I can actually hold on to when you say that, when I hear that word energy, it's night and day. Like you could have said that same sentence a few years ago. And I'd be like, yeah, energy, I get it. Yeah, the energy, yeah. But I'd only get it up here. It wasn't anything I had any sort of grasp of. I think I told you that wonderful quote of Yogananda's. I think I might have mentioned it fairly recently. The I don't know if it's the task or the goal or the job of the yogi is to turn his conceptions into perceptions.
I love that.
Yeah.
That reminds me of, I just quoted myself yesterday when I was talking to a team member. I don't need what I've been saying since the 2000s. I don't need to be right. I need to be happy.
Mm, yeah. Right
So
on.
if we're talking about what you're talking about here, So when I say the energies, I don't mean our energy. When I
Yes.
was talking about, I mean the vibrational backdrop we're living in. And as a yogi, like I keep talking about this more recently again, and I talked about it a lot years ago for years, and it's so much of my second book, the meaning of the word yoga,
Mm.
to
Yeah.
yoga with the divine. And yet, like to go somewhere a little bit more advanced, we have the seven chakra column that we're used to. The higher self at the crown chakra is accessed more and more the more we open our crown chakra with 1,000 petals, whereas the root chakra has only two. Yeah.
I'm following you.
So when we go above the higher self, when we go above the crown chakra, now we're talking about the 12 chakra column, which is more for the new era we're moving into. And there's three above the head. And as we go more and more into those, having those opened, it's a closer and closer and more refined connection to the divine. So the top one's even called the stellar gateway.
Mm.
So it's like, and as well, one of the new ones is below our feet, the earth star chakras. So the way I envision it is like, you use the word alignment too, and it's actually one of the words I use in the clearings and activations because it's like about aligning to the new era. One of the specific clearings and activations I did was about like letting go of the rigid structures, letting go of the familiar to allow for the new opportunities that haven't yet taken form.
Mm.
Right. So to be able
Hmm.
to, so first, that's all a lot of work with our consciousness, like what you said, replacing conception with perception.
Right.
Um, so that's our work with our consciousness. Yeah. But then there's also the effects our consciousness has on our subtle energy system. And so the more that we're purified, so to speak, um, the more we are opening higher and higher to higher and higher, more and more precise communication with the divine to then like align with the energies and the vibrational backdrop that the cosmos are creating.
I just had the thought come to me as you were describing that, as because you used the word purified, right? And I had the thought, well, as we become more purified, well, because a few minutes ago you said, well, I wasn't talking about our energy, I was talking about the energy. And it
Yeah.
occurs to me that as we become more purified, the 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 idea that those two things are actually different goes away. In this,
I'm not, I hear you on one level, but at the
well,
same time, I'm like, it's like when my students and clients talk to me about channeling, you know how there's people, have you ever seen people who do like mediumship more so trance mediumship, where they supposedly leave their bodies and allow for another entity to come in and they speak what the entity is speaking? Have you ever seen any of that stuff?
no, I don't really dabble in those sorts of
I don't either.
yeah, no, I've heard of that stuff. It's kind of like remember. I think it was only a few months ago I mentioned that, and I know that I quote Yogananda lies, my teacher, but um, uh, just that was it. I don't think he used the word meditation, or and maybe it was, or maybe it was just the spiritual path. That the spiritual path isn't a circus. And the reason
Yeah,
that
you
came,
wrote
yeah,
that recently.
yeah. Well, the reason it came up is because, having meditation students or just having the idea of like coming into the practice of meditation or even onto the spiritual path with a goal of like having, um, experiencing phenomena, having
Yeah.
like out of body experience, like all that stuff. And so thankfully, like from early on, like my just inherent like ego based fear like kept me, initially kept me away from any interest in that sort of stuff in the beginning anyway.
Right.
And then so to come, but then to come up, a certain number of years later and to hear that, well, the fact that I didn't desire that stuff was actually kind of handy in the sense because it can become a distraction. It is a
Well, that's what
distraction
I
if
was
that's what you're
getting
looking
at.
for.
But I also think it can become an excuse, right? So there's a genre of blockages, erroneous understandings that people have unconsciously in the spiritual community that they develop as a trauma. in response to trauma. So it's a free floating thought, as you hear in my clearings and activations after traumas, right?
Okay.
All the traumas and their ensuing free floating thoughts. Do you recognize that?
I do, yeah, from the
Okay.
clearings. Uh-huh.
So the free floating thoughts are ensuing from trauma so that we stay protected from that trauma happening again. So we have these certain beliefs unconsciously while the trauma is locked down subconsciously to protect us from having that happen again. And so if somebody's suffered a lot in a previous lifetime or they've suffered a lot of childhood trauma, abuse, neglect in this lifetime, one of the typical patterns I see is they hover above their heads. And that either shows up as super spiritual, where they love the angels and they love to leave their body, maybe an aura trance medium, or they're super heady and intellectual.
Hmm.
So what I'm getting at is I don't encourage the trance mediumship to leave the body. I don't encourage that because I tell my practitioners, no, you stay grounded in your body and you're, because of all the work you've chosen to do and the money and time you've invested in your own personal development, you're intuitively connecting, but you're down here in your body. So I like to not say, whilst it's somewhat true, somewhat, everything, there's no separation between our energy and the energy outside of us. It's a great abstract theory, but I don't feel like on the ground, boots on the ground in day-to-day practices, it's helpful because people are still learning how to manage their ego mind and their consciousness, and then what energy can do in their system, and then what, as a co-creator, is they're sending out their energy, how it meets up with the greater vibrational
Hmm.
backdrop for co-creation. You see what I mean?
I just said this. I love where this is going right now because as you were finishing off your sentence, I was just thinking how easy it would be to kind of sit back and like if we were observing this conversation from kind of like outside of ourselves, how easy it would be to just go into the like to try and grasp it intellectually as far as
I
like
can't be
my
bothered, mate.
I'm sorry.
I can't be bothered. It hurts my head.
Yeah, well, right. Well, and then, but you end up in a circle anyway. Is my because my point was this actually ties into because what my thought was I be as I become more um, aware of my own life force energy, right, of the energy that is flowing through me, yeah, and maybe I decide to have this thought about this conversation about my energy, the life force energy that I'm drawing into my being versus the energy. And I just think I just want to sing. I just want
Yeah,
to sing.
that's
That's
where I
what I'm
was at when I
saying.
said I can't be bothered.
Yeah, because and this ties into because that gets you nowhere. You start thinking about that, and then you're nowhere
But did we
because
not just negate what I just said, though? The practicality of why I do go there and separate our management of our own system and the energy all around us? Because
I don't think you're negating. I'm just going. I'm just where I'm going with this is tying it into actually a thought that I had this past weekend that I was like I wrote down. I was like I want to talk to Alison about this.
okay,
And
but what I
so
was talking about was how to work the law of attraction. So it's no small thing. It's
no
like, how do
small
you
thing.
manifest? How do you co-create? That's why, because I talk about this right now and with that distinction, because we are responsible. We're not just here receiving the universe only. We are consciousness in a body.
Yeah. Well, that's the purpose. I mean, I can circle all the way back to the beginning. That's the purpose of the energization exercises. The purpose of the energization exercises is to raise your energy, learn to become aware of, and then direct your energy into whatever it is that we use our free
Yes.
will to do.
Yes. Yes.
Whether it's an outward
Raise.
endeavor or
I
for
love how
deep
you said that.
meditation. I mean, that's
You
the
say
whole idea.
raise again?
Yeah, to raise our energy, to up. I mean, one of the, I mean,
I love how
because
you said it.
I mean, meditation itself, I mean, it's not a sleepy practice. I mean, it takes a lot of energy to raise consciousness. And so
What a great sentence, David Matthew K.
I don't think I definitely, I
Takes a
definitely
lot of
channel that
energy
before.
to raise consciousness.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
Dedication, commitment.
um,
What's
okay,
the
so
thing?
no, now I really want to share this with you.
Yep.
And I promise it is related to what we're talking about.
I trust you,
Because,
even if it isn't, but I'm sure it is.
well, thank you. Well, yeah. Well, it always comes back in some sort of way,
I know.
um, but I said I just want to sing, right? We start getting when we start getting heady, and this wasn't, and you know that I practiced meditation for years from just essentially mechanically. Like I was doing the practice, and good things were happening, but I didn't. Um, I wasn't graced with the devotion that heart opening devotion until years later. And so when I say I just want to sing now, it's like when I feel myself getting heady on something, like really starting to try and intellectual understanding is important for me. I'm somewhat intellectual, right? But then it just goes way too far and way off track. And so what I noticed was I just had the greatest example of this happen to me while I was mowing the lawn last weekend. Um, and then I had it reinforced when we were talking about, like we were doing like the thumbnail for this for this podcast thing. Just like the difference between when I'm trying to figure something out and when I'm just in a flow of like co-creating. Yeah. At the risk of overusing that word or that concept. But anyway, I was. But where this is going is I was mowing the lawn, and I had become I fell in love with the song. So the Psalm of David is, and I'm not going to go into like Psalms and stuff. I'm not a biblical person. I love the Bible and I love learning about Jesus and those sorts of things, but it's not my forte. Anyway, I fell in love with this version. So there's the Psalm of David, and then Swami Kriyananda, who, as you know, is a direct disciple of Paramhansa Yogananda, who's a teachings I'm very much in tune with, put it to music. He wrote a melody for it. And so now what I did was I was out walking for I was probably 6 weeks when I went out for my morning walk. I had the Psalm of David song playing in my backpack so I could hear it. I was just, so I memorized it and then I started singing it. You know how, I'm going to out myself right now, and I'm sure you can relate to some song, but for me, it was like a Pearl Jam song. Back when I used to listen to like angry music when I was like in my 20s, it was a Pearl Jam song that I could sing the whole thing, but because of the nature of Eddie Vedder's voice, I didn't know any of the words I was singing. I
Oh
could
my
literally
God, Pearl Jam. Like when we started having like subtitles on YouTube, I was like, oh my God, that's what he was always saying.
totally, but you could
Exactly
totally
with
sing
Pearl
it.
Jam.
Yeah, but it didn't stop you from singing along, right?
No, but Pearl
I totally could, man. I thought I was singing good. So you can do that. I got a decent Eddie Vedder voice. Anyway,
Yeah, let's hear it.
no, now I might sing for you, but I haven't sung for you in a while, actually.
Pearl Jams was
Um,
during my master's program and while I was with Roger and at Skipper's. So, I mean, it's a whole
um,
lifetime.
yeah, I think I can relate to that. I know. I think pretty much everybody can relate to like certain music in certain phases of life.
Uh-huh.
So I'm very grateful for. I hope that this phase that I'm in is just the phase for the rest of my life, as far as this music that I listen to, because I don't listen to much else. But uh, so
The Psalm of David.
so what I was getting at with like you can know the words to a song without. I mean, in the Pearl Jam example, I didn't actually know what the specific words were, most of them anyway. But in this case, I knew the words, and I was singing it along with it, and then I was singing it just by myself, just singing it like chanting. But still, it's like biblical, right? So
Right.
it's I will lift up mine eyes unto the hills, from whence cometh my help. My help cometh from the Lord, who made the heaven and the earth. I mean, it's biblical,
Wow.
right? Right. And so there's that verse, and then there's three more verses, and I know
It
all
just
of them, right?
communicates faith, it sounds like.
What's that?
Biblical or not, it's communicating faith and trust.
Faith and trust. Thank you. Because what happened while I was mowing the lawn was I was singing it. And suddenly I just understood.
Oh,
I,
I love things like that. I love when that happens.
I just understood every verse. Now I'm not going to go in like I could like tell you what my understanding is of each of these verses, and then someone will go and listen to this and be like, yeah, like I'm not interested in a intellectual. Like you can just get so off track when you start to try and intellectually understand something that just it wasn't written for us to intellectually understand. It was written to bring us closer to God. That's all.
Drop it
That's
down into the heart.
and which is what music does. So my point being that had Swami not received that melody and put it to the Psalm of David, and had I not heard it and learned it and sung it, I would not have had the benefit this past weekend of just understanding, understanding what that psalm is about, understanding like I'll just give you one example. Again, I'm not going to like interpret the whole thing because I'm not interested in like right or wrong.
Yeah,
I
I
just
kind of don't want to go there with you anyway. So
yeah,
cool.
fair enough. But just as an example, well, so okay, so I won't go there fully. But what I get from one of the verses is that we don't have to do anything other than think of God. That's that's all we have to do. He's not waiting for us to accomplish or do or anything specific or perform any specific practice or anything or to and he's not waiting to like one of the words in there is the word smite. The sun shall not smite thee by day. He's not waiting. He's around to judge us and all this stuff that we like. If you grew up in any sort of religious way, especially I don't know, it's so easy to distance yourself from God or anything related because you feel like there's just like this judge, and that's so. This what this verse in the psalm is saying to me is that's so wrong. That's not at all what this is about. All he loves us. He loves our mistakes. He loves all we have to do is think of him. That's it. And it's just like just the first and just the way the melody goes. The all right.
Give it to us.
I'll give you one line. Hold on, I haven't sung to you in a while.
Hmm.
I will lift up mine eyes unto the hill. From whence cometh my help? My help cometh from the Lord, who made the heavens and the earth.
That's so devotional.
I mean, I just imagine just like walking around singing that. And it's what I've been doing. It's why, it's why I can just, and I don't know. So
Oh, you shifted your energy so totally. Do you see the difference in your on your cheekbone area? You're a different energy right now. You're out of your head more. And you're more, yeah.
that's
Beautiful.
why I just started, I told you that I had so it was a holiday weekend, um, where I did the Sunday meditation. And so one person came, but I never met her before. Right? So as I always give someone, if someone shows up to a group meditation and they're the only one, I always give them an out, especially if they're new. Like, I know that this probably wasn't what you were expecting. I'm happy to meditate with you, and I'm happy to make this like an individual session if you want to do some instruction. Or I will not be offended if you want to go, like you're uncomfortable because you're expecting a group, but it's just one on one. So I always just I just want folks to know that they're in charge, right? That
Yeah.
this is their choice, right? Um, Wonderfully, to her credit, she just stayed. And so what I've been doing the past few weeks is I don't like bring my guitar or anything like that yet, so I'm playing a song through a speaker, one that I have sung to, and I just sing out loud and I invite folks to sing,
Yeah.
and they've really been enjoying it. But I don't. The reason I'm bringing this up is because it was just the two of us there, and I don't think it was just because like she was. I don't know. I get into my head every now and then thinking
Yeah, I
like
just saw the shift.
what she, yeah, right, like what she might, what my feeling was, and if I really go into the what's right, like what my feeling was is that she sang because she wanted to sing. So like I just sat there and uh, sang with one other person, and the difference that that makes, no matter where it occurs within the context of a practice, like to go into a meditation technique or something after. I mean, if you've ever been to a kirtan, you know what this is about. But to actually practice chanting, to practice music on the front end of an intentional meditation practice, it's night and day.
David, my yoga teacher training in India in the yoga shala, 5:30 a.m. We would start with meditation and then we would go into chanting.
Yeah.
But and sometimes it was more chanting than meditation. It was
Hmm.
not ever only meditating.
Yeah. And this is circles back to the very beginning of this conversation, how many years I went of only meditating. Like, and
Well, I mean,
that's what,
that's why you were using it though. And so the singing, like you said, music's from the heart, right? So you were working with the mind. You needed help first to sort your mind out and gain more self-mastery over your
it's true.
self-talk.
It's true. Yeah.
And then you were more hearty. I mean, you've always been this incredibly gentle, beautiful heart soul.
Oh,
That you have, honey. You've always had this gentleness to you that's just speaks to your heart. Yeah. But you've also had a lot of conditioning, as we all have had, and some stuff to work out through the dominance of the ego mind that we've all been taught to use our intellect to get achievements accomplished. Right. So
yeah.
as
Yeah.
you've learned how to come out of all of the self-talk that's been like a skipping CD or like a not like noise, then that creates space for the heart. That's what this whole time is if on planet Earth is dropping down out of the head and into the heart. And the singing would have to wait. And now you're so into it because it's another tool with which to, and it's not such a direct approach to the ego mind. You know what I mean? It's not like I mean, you know how we say that if you even just sit for meditation, you've won.
Yeah. Hmm.
So, like, you know how like meditation confronts the ego mind. So the singing, it's like a back door. And one of the things I actually have
It's
said,
cheating. It really is. It's cheating in the most
I
wonderful way. It's the most wonderful way.
well, yeah, and so I would also say, like when I've had clients in the past for one-on-ones, I was saying this for years, and I don't say it as much now because I don't have as many one-on-one clients in person or distance. I do more of the group work, and yet still, what I'm doing in the group work is helping people gain that self-mastery over the self-talk and have because the yogic culture and the traditional Chinese culture, the Taoist culture that created the yin yang symbol both believe the spirit resides in the heart. So
Mm.
I basically what I'm getting at is I've been saying for years, like decades, um, I help people. I do a backdoor approach to quieting the mind because I help people open their heart.
Mm.
A
It,
backdoor approach so it doesn't confront the ego mind. So just kind of slide.
it makes perfect sense, and I am remembering another teaching by I don't know if it was directly Yogananda or if it was Swami Kriyananda who said that you can't take one step forward on the spiritual path without devotion. And I can completely see that had I continued only focusing on like training the mind and not ever experienced any sense of devotion from a spirit. I mean, I definitely would have gotten a quieter mind. I definitely would have had a more control is not the word, but just had been more empowered, more fully in myself. But as far as the spiritual aspect of the practice, I mean, it doesn't happen up here.
Can we talk about this?
Maybe next time because I have to scoot. I have to
Oh, are we
scoot here in
done?
just a few minutes,
Oh, we
and
are
again,
done. Holy cow.
I know, it goes fast. And I had one more other thought that I was going to share with you before the end there, and I do want to continue because I want to learn what you have to say there. But I
We
just
have a little bit of patch of time, so I can get into it.
give it a go.
Um, it's super intriguing to me how somebody will come to work with me and they'll have their desires and intentions of maybe even like quieting their mind and having more peace, and hearing their intuition more.
Mm,
A lot of the time, more so like in the teens, in the thousands and the 90s, the late 90s is when I started the energy medicine work, having clients that way, right? So it's changed in these years, in these decades, but it's like people would come to me with this more, I'm going to say, egoic intention. Help me get through, like, help me get through this divorce, help me leave this abusive relationship, help me get into a better job, help me start my own business. But it has always involved like because of the way I work, I think. But to have them have all that it's basically they've been asking, help me get to more. I can't access it, and I know there's more for me. And they do it through an egoic intention. And I'm not meaning the ego is bad here. All I'm getting at is that the process with which to get them to a position in their consciousness and in their subtle energy system where they will allow themselves to have that more, that something more, and access that new elevation in whatever area of their life, it always involves spirit and getting in touch with their higher self and their heart. And it's such an interesting trick that the divine has put into our system, because like it's also why so much of the time these unexpected, as if out of the blue or as if by magic, beautiful synchronicities happen for them, because it's the divine letting them know, yes, you're on the right path.
mm,
So yeah, I mean, it can be approached through, and some people will stop with the mindset work or the hardwiring work only, like how I've divided up the 30 minutes of the meditation experience. The first 10 is for the brain hardwiring, increasing the focus, increasing the long-term and short-term memory, etc. And then the second 10 minutes is the physiological changes, calmer. Last 10 minutes are the part where you start to flush your subconscious and touch your higher self. You need those last 10 minutes to have that spirituality. And the majority of people, well, where do you think they stop? I mean, that'd be an interesting extra credit if I was still in the classroom. So what
mhm,
you just said, it's like depending on where people stop or go to, like there's no escaping the spirit. There's no escaping the connection to the divine.
mhm. It's where we're all headed eventually.
Well, it's the humanity spiritual awakening times.
It's fun. Not
It's fun.
not without its challenges. I say it's fun because we've talked about this before. I can't. It's like my most heartfelt prayer. It seems like now and forever is just to never lose this devotion. Is just to never. I mean, I
Oh,
know that everything that came to this point, as far as everything I experienced in life, and this is, I know many people can relate to this, but it was all necessary. But there's still a part of me that like looks at someone who kind of figures this out when they're like 22, like, oh, there's something else going on here that I was just not in touch with at all when I was 22. There's a little bit of envy there, like, oh, what if I had that much more time? I mean, again, I don't go down that sort of path of thinking about it, but I just can't imagine going back. So,
yeah. And what if, and it's interesting too, another slip of the divine is like the title of my first book, What If There's Nothing Wrong? Like, what if there was nothing wrong and you didn't have something to heal, fix, or cure? Would you still pursue this path? So it's like a trick, even there, too, to uncover the gem.
what is that? What is that quote? Rarely do those for whom life goes along swimmingly seek God. It's just we require suffering. Suffering is I heard Swami to say that at some point that suffering is not bad. It's just it's whether we whether we decide that this thing that's happening is good or bad. That's our binary
It's
mind.
a whole nother conversation. It's two
Of course.
conversations in that last thing that you just said. All right, so
Well,
let's
that's why this is not the only time we're going to talk.
ever.
Okay. Well, I love you very much.
I love you very much too, my brother.
I'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.